What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into the channel. Today we're going to be going over the red Ray deck list that won this week's Myrtle Beach Games locals. The deck has a lot of restore, has some aggression, has some removal, so it kind of checks off all the boxes, and is what makes it so good. If you guys want to go ahead in the comments down below and suggest what deck list we go over next, let me know what you guys want to see. I'll build a deck list, I'll show it off in the locals, and we'll do it like we used to do. I'll give you guys a shout out. So if you guys have any deck lists that you guys want to see, put it down in the comments down below and we'll see what we can do with all of that. Also, before we get into anything, I want to give a shout out to the winners. If you guys tuned into the giveaway stream, we had Bluezer and we had Dante. Those were the two winners. I sent out their packages. I'm going to go ahead and show off what Bluezer got down the road in a later video, and then Dante will be getting his package soon. But again, thank you so much for the support on that stream. It was a lot of fun. And without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into this deck list video and, you know, see what makes Red Ray so good, right? So obviously, as the leader, you know, for an action at the cost of 1, you can go ahead and give an experience token to a unit that has 2 or less power. So this makes your weaker units, and the red package goes really well with this because there's a lot of raid units, and you can pay to make them like stronger so they can take more hits, as well as hit even harder with their raid bonus. And so it's really good, as well as it works with the restore units. They're typically low attack, but you know, you go ahead and give them a boost with the experience token. It keeps them on the board a little bit longer, and it can be a nuisance for your opponent to kind of deal with, whether it be those raid units or those restore units. The raid units hitting your base really hard, the restore units healing theirs, and you know, these units are staying on the board because they have that experience tokens, and the HP goes up, and it, you know, it can be hard to kind of deal with it as the game kind of goes on, right? For the epic action, if you control 6 or more resources, you can go ahead and deploy Ray, and she is a 2/6, and on her attack she does that ability where she gives an experience token to a unit with 2 or less power, which on the first attack, obviously it's most likely going to be going to herself. So she's essentially a 3/7 with restore 3, and that is crazy. Restore 3, we see how powerful that is when it comes to Luke, but this comes out a turn sooner. And then even if you wanted to go ahead and play this and then play Luke next turn, Luke and Ray swing in for restore 3 on top of the other units that restore 2. This deck can go ahead and flip a game if it's getting hit hard early, and then all those restore units start to swing, and it's just all the HP is back on the base, and then they're going ahead and they're swinging on your base and clearing your units. And that's where this deck kind of, you know, forms and really shows its strength in the ability to kind of hang on to games because of all that restore. Base that we use for this deck is Tarkentown. Now, Tarkentown, epic action, deal 3 damage to a damaged non-leader unit. That is really good. Now, I know that the this goes particularly well against decks that, you know, do better with damaged units, like Han, right? Han can't come in and use his ability quite so often when Tarkentown is there to pop a unit almost instantly. So it keeps your opponents on edge, really, because if they're not able to take out a unit with the swing, right? Yeah, maybe I'm not going to go ahead and die from swinging into Yoda, but this will go ahead and pop that unit. So your opponent has to kind of think about how they're going to be taking out your units if it causes their units to be damaged. Tarkentown's just really good in kind of helping clear out the board. It's another removal piece for the deck that doesn't cost anything but the epic action on the base. And I think that's a really good way to go ahead and continue to clear the board and make way for Ray's bigger units to either restore their base or, you know, start swinging into your base, because they don't really have to worry about what's on the other side. So I think that Tarkentown with Ray is a really good way to build, and it is a problem, but it is a really fun deck. Again, like I said, it checks off all the boxes. It has a lot of restore, it has a good amount of removal, and then it also has an aggression piece to it to where it can go fast if it has to do that. So let's go ahead and hop into the ground units first, right? Starting off, we have the Moisture Farmer. It has restore 2, but with Ray, you can go ahead and give it that experience token. So it's essentially can become a 1/5 on turn 1. That 5 HP making it really hard to deal with early, so it can go ahead and continue to heal the base at the start of the game if it needs to, right? So it keeps you healthy in the beginning of the game. Also, it can even go up to a 2/6 if, you know, Ray wants to keep on pumping it up, and then essentially a 3/7 because it can go ahead and just pump it up 3 times. But do you want to spend that 1 experience when you can go ahead and spend it on better targets after the first turn? Probably not, but still a 1/5 is still going to guarantee that it's able to live most likely the first turn if it's not being hit with removal, right? But Moisture Farmer Restore 2 is just there to restore, right? We have R2D2. Obviously we know what this does. It's basically when played or on attack, look at the top card. If you don't need it at the time, you put it to the bottom of your deck. It's a good way to cycle your deck, and it's a good way to go ahead and make sure that you're going to be getting the cards that you want to get. Now, it is a 1/4, so obviously it's not the first turn. You're going to go ahead and give it that experience token, and it's essentially, again, a 2/5. So you're hitting the base for 2 or hitting units 5 HP. Again, it's really hard to deal with in the beginning of the game. So these 2 1-drops are actually quite hard to deal with that 5 HP on the first turn. So again, little guys, you know, you're making your weenies bigger, which probably I shouldn't have said that, but here we go. We're going to go on, continue on. We have Miggs Mayfield. Miggs Mayfield in this deck. There is actually quite a bit of discard in this deck, and we'll go over it as we get there, right? But Miggs, when a player discards a card from their hand, you may deal 2 damage to a unit or a base. And then it's only once per round, but still, it's actually kind of strong. You can go ahead and hit if your opponent has some space units. If you don't have space, it's a good way to kind of, you know, ping out space and get rid of those guys, right? Or you can keep up the momentum on the base and just slowly hit the base with 2 every time you make them discard. And again, we're going to go over the cards that works well with this, but still, Miggs is pretty good in this deck. We have more Restore with Yoda here. Restore 2, and when defeated, you get to draw a card. So even if your opponent does take care of Yoda, it's still value for you because you are going to go ahead and gain that card. So, and Restore 2, any person that sees Restore 2 on a unit or Restore 3, they want to get rid of that unit as soon as possible because it's really going to slow down their pace. But Yoda, again, drawing that card and Restore 2. And with Rey, it becomes a 3/5. Again, that 5 body is, you know, hard to deal with. We have K2SO. As we all know, this card is one of the best in the game. It has Overwhelm, and when defeated, you can choose your opponent to either take 3 damage or discard a card from their hand, right? Can't say enough good things about this card. It's just really, really good. And this goes with Miggs because you can go ahead and, if you have Miggs on the board and you have K2SO and K2SO dies, there's no reason not to make an opponent discard a card from hand and go ahead and deal 2 damage to the base with Miggs. Yes, you are giving up that 1 damage, but essentially you're getting both parts of this effect with Miggs on the board. So K2SO and Miggs combo is actually pretty good. Next, we have Kanan Jarrus. On attack, you may discard a card from the defender player's deck. You're just going to make a mill 1, and then you get to heal your base depending on how many aspects there are among the card. If you have more Spectre units, it goes ahead and it mills more. It gives you more of a chance to maybe hit that 3 mark. And so, but Kanan, a 4/5, and it has potential to heal you, is actually pretty solid, right? We have Poe Dameron next, one of the best cards, if not the best card in the Shadows of the Galaxy set, but it's just so good. It's a 5-drop with a 6/6 body. It's like, that's extremely strong in itself, but on attack, you may discard up to 3 cards from your hand. For each card discarded, you get to choose one of these things. You get to either choose deal 2 damage to a unit or a base, you get to defeat an upgrade, or you get an opponent discards a card from their hand. So all 3 of those effects are good. Again, the discard from hand works well with Miggs. This card is just very, very good. It just, I can't say enough good things about it just because it is just so powerful. Next, we have 2 Kylo Ren killing the past. Now, this goes without the aspect penalty because it is in the Rey deck. So what makes this so good in this deck is that on attack, give a unit +2/+0 for the phase, and if it's a non-villainy unit, which everything in this deck is, it gets an experience. You can give an experience token. That's just really strong, right? So not only are they getting +2 for this phase, they're getting an extra +1/+1 as well permanently. So this card with Rey's buffs, it can snowball pretty fast, and it's a 6-drop with a 6/7. It's just really good and really strong. Next, hopping into the next unit, obviously we have Luke Skywalker, Jedi Knight. It has Restore 3. When played, give an enemy unit -3/-3 for the phase. And if a friendly unit is defeated this phase, you can give it -6/-6. It's more removal and more restore. And again, if they can manage to go ahead and get Rey onto the board, and they can go ahead and get Kylo Ren to go ahead and buff up Rey, so it's harder to get rid of Rey, and then you put out Luke and you have Restore, that combination is kind of crazy. It's just, this deck can go ahead and spiral really quickly. And then we have the Crate Dragon. This deck with Crate Dragon, it has a good chance to get to those 9 resources. So not needing ramp to get there is actually really solid. And then obviously we all know Crate Dragon has Overwhelm, so if it kills something, it goes into the base. And then you can go ahead, and if your opponent plays a card, you may deal damage equal to that card's cost to their base or a ground unit they control. This is just a good way, again, more removal or just big damage into your opponent's base. But that's going to do it for the ground units. We have 25 ground units. It's a more ground-centric deck, but we do have some space units to kind of go over. And first off, we have Green Squadron A-Wing. We know in aggressive heroic decks, this is like the go-to space unit. Especially with Rey being able to go ahead and buff up the unit. You can go ahead and give experience to it. It becomes a 2/4, and then you can do it again if you want to, and then it's a 3/5, and it's swinging for 5. It's actually really crazy, and it can become a problem really quickly for your opponent if they don't have space units to kind of deal with it as fast as possible. Next, we get the Concord Dawn Interceptors. This is another card that can be really dangerous because it is a Sentinel, and it is a 1/4. You can go ahead and pump that up a couple times if you need to, but also when this unit is being attacked, it gets +2/+0. So if you give an experience token, it's swinging in for 4 back into the opponent that's attacking it, and you give it 2 experience, it's swinging back for 5. And essentially that's going to take out a lot of things early, and this is just a good way to kind of protect your base from space early in the game. And the final space unit, we only rock 1 Redemption. It's a Sentinel, but when played, it heals up to 8 damage from any number of units or bases you deal damage to it. So you can go ahead and you can deal 8 damage to this unit. It's still a Sentinel, but you can heal 8 damage from your base if you're getting really, really low, because again, you have a 25 HP base. It's just another way to restore. Or you can go ahead and try to keep your bigger units on the board by healing up the damage that's been done, and maybe with the experience tokens, they were able to hang on a little bit, but then you can go ahead and heal those guys back up. But the synergy with all the restore in this deck with the units and the aggression pieces with Rey's ability to make them a little bit stronger and faster, it has a good amount of, again, healing your base, keeping you alive and sustained, while also keeping on their pressure on your opponent, whether you want to go ahead and attack into their base or into their units using your buffed up units. So it's really hard to deal with. Let's go ahead and hop into the events, because we rock 18 events in this deck, and it's a pretty good amount, right? We have 3 Daring Raid. It's one of my favorite cards in the set. It's a 1-drop, deals 2 damage to a unit or a base. Again, you can go ahead and use it to maybe finish off a game, keep up pressure on the base, or to finish off maybe a Sentinel or something in space that you don't really have the space unit at the time and you don't want to keep taking damage from it. So you can go ahead and ping that, right? You can use this in combination with Tarkin Town, right? Daring Raid, deal that 2 damage, and then go ahead and Tarkin Town, and then you get to essentially pop something for 5. So that's a really good combination. It's just another big removal piece in this deck. And again, if you need to go into the base, you can, but I think it's more for the removal because, again, there is a lot of removal in this deck. Next form of removal, because there is a ton of force units in this deck, we have Force Throw. So one, if you have MIGs on the board, you go ahead and you Force Throw, you make your opponent get rid of a unit, and then, or get rid of a card from their hand, and then a unit takes damage equal to the amount of cost of that card they drop. So if they drop a big unit, it's, again, they have to basically get rid of a unit on the board. It can become a problem for your opponent because maybe they have something in mind that they do want to play, and they don't want to discard the smaller number, so they discard the bigger number, they'll lose a unit on the board. And just it's a play disruptor, really. But also you can go ahead and discard your own card if you don't have a card in your hand that you need, but you want to guarantee get rid of something on the board. Force Throw is just really, really strong. Next, you have Open Fire. Open Fire just deals 4 damage to a unit. We all know what that does. Pillage. Pillage, you might be thinking to yourself, why Pillage for 4? It's extremely good. Making your opponent discard 2 cards from their hand is massive at the 4 resource mark. Especially if you start the turn, there's a small chance that they don't have a lot of cards in hand at that point anyway, and you can go ahead and like really mess up their plays. Also with MIGs, you can go ahead and deal 2 damage into the board. It's just more discard synergy, and making your opponent have even less options is extremely strong, and you're going to see in the matchup. just how powerful Pillage really is. Takedown, another form of removal. We all know what this does. If there is a unit on the other side with 5 or less remaining health, it just gets defeated. Vigilance, it's back. It's evil. In this deck, though, you're not going for the mill, right? You're using it to heal your base for 5, giving you more restore options. And then you can defeat a unit with 3 or less, or give a shield token to a unit. You know, you can go for the mill, but I do think that the other options is what this deck is really going for. And then running 2 Rivals Fall, just in case you do have to go up against maybe, let's just say, Wrecker, Maul, all these bigger threats. Crate Dragon, yes, you're going to take 6 back, but you still get to go ahead and get rid of the Crate Dragon right then and there. So, again, you see a nice mix of removal and discard coming from the events, and that's actually really strong. And now that you've seen the full deck list, this whole package comes together where it's a ton of restore. You have pieces that do hit your base for big damage. So like Green Squadron A-Wing, you have Poe, Kylo Ren, Luke, Yoda can potentially hit your base for 3 while also healing their base. K2SO, all these big threats that can kind of provide pressure. You can outpace things as well as kind of playing that kind of control-y restore type of game, right? So that's what makes this deck really strong, is the multiple options and avenues that it can take to be successful, right? But before we go ahead and get into the match, let's go ahead and talk about the sideboard real quick. If you do have to become more aggressive, this is where the sideboard kind of comes in, right? We have Sabine Wren, again, more speed with the deck. You can go ahead and swing into something, still get damage into the base. It kind of adds in that, but also with the Spectre unit with Kanan, you can make your opponent discard 2 and potentially heal more off of Kanan when Sabine's on the board. But again, it's a little bit of a faster piece if need be. If you don't need the restore as much, you can go ahead and start throwing in your aggression pieces. Disabling Fang Fighter, if you're playing against someone with a ton of upgrades, this is what you want to go ahead and play. Just play it, defeat an upgrade. If you're going up against someone with a ton of bounties, you can also go ahead and play this and get rid of a bounty if you don't want to deal with maybe Bosk getting a couple bounties off of 1 bounty, or Jabba the Hutt playing some bounties. Not his ability, but if he's just playing bounties on your side. But still, as long as you're defeating an upgrade, right? Red 3, again, with more aggression style, if you have to switch to it. There's a lot of heroic units in this deck. You're going to go ahead and play Red 3, gives you more space options, as well as giving all your heroic units Raid 1. So again, making your deck a little bit faster. Aggression. This is, again, this sideboard is mainly for the speeding up of the deck, if you need to go that way. But you can draw a card, defeat up to 2 upgrades, again, bounties or entrench or stuff like that. Pop 2 of those things. Ready up a unit with 3 or less power, works really well with these raid units. And then also deals 4 damage to a unit. So it's essentially an open fire and a ready up, potentially, or defeat 2 upgrades if you're playing against Garsax. And again, pop 2 of those upgrades. There's a lot of options with this card in kind of speeding up your game. And then you have Forced Surrender. You get to draw 2 cards. Each opponent whose base you've dealt damage to this phase discards 2 cards from your hand. More discard synergy if you need to go that route. But again, this deck is a lot of fun. It's really strong, and we're gonna go ahead and hop into the finals matchup between Han Green and Red Ray, and we'll kind of showcase just how strong this deck really is. All right, we are here with the matchup between Ray Red against Han Green. Han Green struggles with this matchup. It is what it is. There's a ton of removal, and then also Han's ability damaging his own units makes it prime targets for Tarkin Town. So to kind of get around that, it takes a little bit, but let's go ahead and hop in and see how this one goes, right? So, Han player has initiative, no units in hand after the mulligan to start, and then they have to go ahead and figure out what to go. They go with recruit, right? So they get to pick a unit. I mean, to be fair, so they draw 5 cards. So there's the 5th card. The issue is that the 2 Spark of Hopes on top being cycled down into the bottom of the deck gets rid of any opportunity for ramp essentially in this matchup, which could be a big problem. And someone keeps knocking into the camera. It is what it is. But the trying to kind of figure out what to go here. There is no turn 2 play in the hand, and I think that going with the safer play and grabbing the Peacekeeper here, just to make sure that you do have something to play on turn 2, because you don't have a turn 1 play, so you have to go for the turn 2 play. And grabbing the Peacekeepers, also having that restore 2 to kind of keep up with any damage you're going to be taking. That's probably what the thought process was there. And so you get the Peacekeeper into hand, and then you see the Green Squadron A-Wing. It is a little bit of a problem. There's not much space in the Han deck. So we go on to the next turn. You see the Crate Dragon goes down as a resource because there is another Crate Dragon in hand, right? And you see the Peacekeeper come out here. Again, being able to restore the base to try to keep up with the damage it is going to be taking in. The second Green Squadron A-Wing coming out. This is a big problem. Now, if you can go ahead and get a Sentinel in space to kind of slow it down, that's ideal. But now you're seeing Ray's ability, right? You're going to see the experience token come on the Green Squadron A-Wing and then smack the base for 4. So already you're down to 21 HP to 25. And again, you can't really use Han's ability to cheat out the K2SO because Tarkin Town would probably be used there. Maybe not, but again, I mean, I guess you could have gotten the 3 damage in on the board, but no unit on to stay with it. And keep up with the restore might have been pretty good too here, right? So you're seeing the 3 damage in on Tarkin Town, healing up the 2 for the Han player. And Ray, again, in the driver's seat here, 2 space units, really strong, swinging them for another 4, put me back at 6. You're going to go ahead and spend the 4 to bring up K2SO at full HP to not get Tarkin Town to right away. I need to try to get some type of sustained pressure on the board. But the Ray player here, going ahead and giving the experience token and then grabbing the initiative. And then swinging again for another 4. And then the open fire coming in here, showing off that removal. So not needing Tarkin Town, dealing the 4 damage right away with open fire. Taking another 3 in, but still really ahead. Has 10 damage in on the ECL to 6 on the Tarkin Town. And again, these space units are really the death of the deck. Not able to also get those Spark of Hopes in hand is pretty depressing as well. So we're going to go ahead and see for 5 resources. You're going to get the Marauder here. We're going to ambush in, take out the 1 Green Squadron A-Wing, and then not being able to use the ability to ramp up, sadly, because I don't have a K2SO on the board. So that's a little unfortunate, but still being able to take out one of those Green Squadron A-Wings is pretty clutch there. He goes in to swing in with the Green Squadron A-Wing, but then decides that it's smarter to go ahead and give the experience, and then also realizing that Tarkin Town is probably the way to go. But now the Sundari Peacekeeper going to go ahead and swing in, restore 2, going to put the opponent at 9. And then you're going to go ahead and see Tarkin Town go off instead of the Green Squadron A-Wing. That's the proper play there, because now the Green Squadron A-Wing can go ahead and deal in another 4 damage. And again, it's just so much pressure. Have to go ahead and swing. Just try to, put them at 12. And again, trying to keep up the pace here. It's a little unfortunate not being able to draw the Bright Hope a little bit earlier, but it is what it is. We see the K2SO come in. That could be a problem as well. Knowing that Tarkin Town is gone, though, you can use Han's ability if need be, but we have to pretty much make sure that this Green Squadron A-Wing does die eventually. But you see the Bright Hope come in now, so I can go ahead and kind of slow down the Green Squadron A-Wing for at least a turn and try to bring this one back, right? So you see right away you put out the Bright Hope. I'm not going to cheat it in because it would just die right away from the Green Squadron A-Wing, but at least it comes in. I can take at least 1 hit from it. So the Ray player now is trying to decide what to do here, right? Getting to slow down the Green Squadron A-Wing is okay, but it's not like the solution here. Unless I can pop another Bright Hope out there and feel really good, it's not going to do all that much. Ray's able to come out here, starting to heal his base for 3 each turn. It can become a problem, as we know, and this is where things start to flip here, right? So you see the Daring Raid coming out here to deal 2 damage. I have to go ahead and swing it to the base for 3 and heal my base right away because I know that K2SO is going to go ahead and take out my Peacekeeper. It's going to also get the Overwhelm damage. So it is going to go ahead and deal the extra 1 damage to my base. And it has 1 damage left on K2SO. I have to go into base here. I don't want to take the extra 3 from K2SO, which probably isn't the best plan here. But again, I need to kind of make sure that I have my units onto the board. And now you see Yoda coming out. There's the restore, as well as Ray being able to come out again and being able to restore 3 on his base. And this is where the problem starts coming in, right? There's a Yoda on the board, there's a Ray on the board, and there's a Green Squadron A-Wing on the board with experience tokens going around and around and around and around. So he goes ahead and he smacks the Bright Hope for 5. Bright Hope's hanging on by a thread. Again, only being able to get 2 damage in on the Green Squadron A-Wing is not great, but now we have to kind of decide what to do here. We have a single option, really, is to use ECL with Wrecker and kind of decide where you want the damage to go, right? We have to pop that resource, which is going to put us behind the 8 ball in terms of resources, because he can get the Crate Dragon before us because we didn't get that ramp early on in the game, because using Recruit early put our resources down to the bottom, which is very unfortunate. But we're going to go ahead and we are going to use the epic action from the ECL, and we're going to be ambushing in Wrecker. Now I'm trying to decide what to do. Wrecker having 7 HP, 7 attack. I have to get rid of Ray, and I have to go ahead and I have to pop Yoda, and I have to just try to stop him from being able to restore as much as possible. Now, you could have argued that I should have probably gotten rid of K2SO, because K2SO being able to hit my base for 3 as well as do overwhelm damage to Wrecker is bad, but still healing his base for 2 while also hitting my base for 3 is essentially the same thing, except there's the 1 extra damage, right, that he's gonna be able to do with K2SO. So he is gonna go ahead and he's gonna trade with Wrecker and deal the extra 1 and then deal 3. So it's gonna be a total of 4 damage in on my base, right? And I do leave Wrecker there for a little bit for some reason. Wrecker's dead, don't worry about it. I don't swim with Wrecker, I don't ready up Wrecker in any way, shape, or form. Wrecker is RIP dead. I go ahead and I swing into his base for 2 because I know that the Green Squadron A-Wing or something else is going to go ahead and take me out. It's Daring Raid, which does suck because it is unfortunate. Now I'm going to be taking extra damage in from the base here, right? I'm going to go ahead and deal 3 to his base. Again, it's coming down to the wire. I have him down to 5 HP left on base, but realistically, the Green Squadron A-Wing staying out there as long as possible and dealing in 5, 5, 5, 5 is the actual problem there, right? Being able to use this as well, Rival's Fall, to take out the Han, it is what it is. I think at this point now, I can't really do anything because I can't get 5 damage in on the board. I had no way to pump my units, and I think that's kind of what I need to go ahead and maybe start spicing up the deck a little bit more. If I had Gorilla Attack Pod, maybe a turn earlier, but still, I just had nothing towards the end of the game. All the removal and the heals and all that stuff, it does come into a factor. And then again, the lack of space units is a little bit rough, right? So then I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna use Han's ability, play out, heal for 3. It's not quite 5. It might not have mattered because he had Daring Raid. It put me at 21, but you see he has a lot of space units and a lot of stuff like that. If I was able to get down to 19 back on my board there, I might have been able to go ahead and stabilize a little bit and swing it for game next turn and go into the next game after that. But again, you see how well the raid deck operates in the fact that it has a ton of removal, the restore options, and then it has good space early game options as well. is if it gets into space, it does play that aggressive style where it can outpace you because of the ability to go ahead and give experience tokens to the Green Squadron A-Wings and even the lower units like Yoda, again, like we saw there. I had to go ahead and use Wrecker's ability. I was lucky that I was able to do 5 Wrecker's ability, but if he had, you know, been maybe a different unit that was able to kind of live Wrecker's ability, it's just, again, the ability to give out experience tokens to weaker units to keep their sustainability, as well as the ability to go ahead and hit harder into the base, is what makes this deck really good, on top of the restore and the removal pieces. But again, shout outs to Ryan, good deck, good playing. And with that being said, we're going to go on and get out of here. If you are enjoying the content, make sure you hit that sub button. Support is always appreciated on this channel. And shout outs again to our winners of the giveaway, Bluezer and Dante. Also, let me know what you guys want to see as far as deck lists go. We can do budget lists. Tell me what leader, what color you guys want to do. And if you go ahead and you make a suggestion, I'll go ahead and give a shout out on the video in which the deck list that you recommend is showcased. So again, thank you so much for the support. Always appreciate it. And I'll see you guys on the next video.